Well, we have full-blown hysteria on the right. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. The Daily Mail, this rag in London in the UK, published this article saying that Joe Biden wants to cut your meat supply down to one burger a year or thereabouts in order to stop climate change. And now America's right wing is just hysterical about it. On the line with us, let's find out if he's hysterical. I don't know. Julio Rivera, editorial director at Reactionary Times, contributor to Newsmax, The American Thinker, and townhall.com, reactionarytimes.com. Oh, yeah, it's Julio is Julio's Twitter handle. Hey, Julio, so are you all flipped out about this, too?
I think it's much ado about nothing in a lot of ways. I do want to make a point, though, about CO2. I think sometimes people forget, and this is probably one of the only things that, when it comes to the climate conversation that really truly is settled science, is that, CO2 really is the fruit of all life. I mean, we need carbon. We're carbon-based. Human beings are carbon-based. And I think that, over the last couple of years, actually last couple of decades, I think a lot of this has been influenced by, money. We have certain scientific studies that are funded, whether they're funded by special interests, that are either
you mean like fossil fuel billionaires,
energy lobby, or now we have the meatless meat lobby that's starting to grow. It's actually really grown a lot under Trump. I mean, there's I think about 800 companies that are focused on making meatless meat, and 70 new startups just in the last couple of years. So it's actually flourishing. And that could be a good thing in a sense. There's certain ethical issues regarding, how we procure meat and whatnot. I personally don't have an issue with eating meat, but yeah, I think that you're going to get alarmism swinging in every direction when it comes to an issue like this, Tom.
Okay, so let's deal with this carbon dioxide issue to begin with, because this was the sales pitch of the this think tank that's up here in the Pacific Northwest, the Pacific Institute or something like this. And they published this book about 15, 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, because I debated the author of it on this program, in which they were pointing out that, you and I breathe, and all other animals breathe in oxygen and breathe out waste material, carbon dioxide. And plants inhale carbon dioxide and exhale as their waste material oxygen. And therefore, we've got this kind of symbiotic relationship. And his theory was that because plants inhale carbon dioxide, therefore, more carbon dioxide must be better for the plants. And so they actually did some science on this, where they took greenhouses and they took the CO2 level in the greenhouse and they raised it from 300 parts per million, which is where, more or less, I think we were at 320 parts per million in 1860, from 300 parts per million to 400 parts per million, which we passed, 5-10 years ago, to 450 parts per million to 500 parts per million. And what they found was that, the plants grew faster at first, but their stems weren't strong enough, their leaves weren't resilient enough, they weren't capable of producing seeds. There were all kinds of problems because, hundreds of millions, literally hundreds of millions, in some cases billions of years of evolution had matched those plants, or certainly in the last few million years, had matched those plants to the contemporary CO2 levels. So as CO2 levels go up, what we find is that our forests actually become weaker. They become less resilient. A lot of plants are producing more cellulose, but they're producing a hell of a lot less nutrients. So, no, more carbon is not a good thing. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. And I'm not saying that we need to have a carbon overdose, but, I mean, there's scientists out here that I've read that said that our CO2 levels at this point are too low. And they need to come up, that they've been much higher.
Well, those people are lying through their teeth to you, Julio.
No, they're not. No, they're not. Let me
and I guarantee you that they're making money, that they're taking money from fossil fuel billionaires.
Evidence. Why is an area in the Sahara Desert the size of France and Germany regreening now? Is that not a good thing, that a desert is regreening? Listen, climate change happens naturally. It's been happening for billions of years. It's not, humans. And it's not fossil.
Julio, that's like saying, hey, my friend who's dying of cancer right now, injured his knee, and it looks like the bruise is all healed up. He's still dying of cancer. I mean, come on. So, yes, climate change is happening all over the planet.
Thom, listen, I know
there are some places where it is going to produce a locally good effect. There are most places where it's going to produce a locally bad effect, and we're seeing this all over the country.
Where, Thom? Where?
Well, for example, you know, the Northern Triangle countries of Central America that are...
And the glaciers in Manhattan is going to be underwater, and the Earth is going to survive for 12 years, always with the doomsday conspiracies, you know, and the theories, and none of this has actually happened. If we had believed every doomsday theory that's come out ever since people realized the money that is in the environmental lobby,
yeah, this is another straw man argument,
40 years ago.
But you know what caused the Syrian crisis. You know what caused the Arab Spring. That the reason that wheat prices went up.
Climate change?
Yeah, it was. The reason wheat prices went up in Tunisia, which is where the original guy set himself on fire, was because the desert had moved 80 miles south in a period of 15 years. Literally thousands of small subsistence farmers got wiped out. Yes, it was. It was because carbon dioxide levels are going up and the desert is moving south. The same thing happened in Syria. In Syria, the desert moved south 120 miles. You could look this up. The desert moved south 120 miles. Tens of thousands of subsistence farmers ended up in Aleppo and the other major Syrian cities. And then Bashar al-Assad said, "I'm not going to feed them." And there was no food, and that was your original revolt.
Let me tell you something. In America, since Joe Biden became president, he's attacking the fossil fuel industry. That has a direct effect. You have millions of listeners. The fact that they're paying more for food, they're paying more for the pump, that there's less opportunities of employment in the energy sector in America is due to this bad pseudoscience.
There are more jobs in the energy sector in America than there have ever been.
Go ahead and push their interest in Washington, D.C.
There are more jobs in the energy sector than ever before. It's just that they're in clean energy, Julio. We're shutting down these dirty coal plants. We're shutting down these dirty oil plants. The cost of generating electricity with wind power and solar power is now below, in the United States, below the cost of generating that same power with oil, with gas, with coal, or even with nuclear power, especially
and oil.
Nuclear power.
We reached energy independence for the first time in like 50 years under President Trump, and prices at the pump and prices at the grocery store were just fine. This is an example of why Democrats should just leave well enough alone. It's just like what's going on at the border.
You know, Iowa is getting 70% of their electricity from the wind and solar.
The Homeland Security will not acknowledge. You know, you got Alejandro Mayorkas, Mr. Broke the glass ceiling, the first Hispanic leader of DHS, saying we don't have a border crisis, while simultaneously acknowledging that more people.
So if all of this is true, Julio, and we just have 30 seconds left, why is it necessary for people on your side to try to freak people out that they're not going to be able to eat meat? Why do they have to lie to people?
Freak people out? You guys are the king of freaking people out. No, Manhattan underwater. The Earth is going to be destroyed in 12 years, and we're all going to be dead. You guys are the kings of alarmism.
Drought here in the West. You've got drought in the Northern Triangle countries in Central America. It's one of the things that's driving refugees up to here. Well, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be.
Happy Earth Day, Thom. Happy Earth Day. I hope you had a great Earth Day.
Thank you. Back at you, Julio. Julio Rivera, the editorial director of ReactionaryTimes.com. Oh, yeah, it's Julio is his Twitter handle. Julio, good talking with you. Thank you. We'll be back. It's 15 minutes past the hour.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
So are you worried about Biden's meatless Mondays? Actually, there's no. Biden is like a big fan of hamburgers, apparently.